Do not call me your Luna after tonight. Marin Caldwell's voice was quiet enough that Alpha King Declan Whitmore almost missed it beneath the music filling Ravencrest's moon hall. Almost. Hundreds of pack leaders stood beneath silver banners, watching the ceremony that had just changed everything. Marin remained beside the royal dais in the midnight blue gown Declan had chosen for her weeks ago, one hand closed around the small silver wolf charm hidden inside her pocket. She had planned to give it to him after the ceremony. That morning, healer Laurel Bennett had confirmed what Marin had barely dared to hope. She was carrying Declan's child. Their first child. Ravencrest's heir. Now Sloane Avery stood beneath the ceremonial moonstone, wearing Declan's fresh royal mark. Marin could smell the sharp trace of the marking right beneath the burning moon herbs. Every wolf in the hall could. Under pack tradition, a royal mark announced a bond before the kingdom. Placing a second while a lawful Luna still carried the first was no meaningless political gesture. Marin, Declan said. Listen to me. Were you going to tell me? His jaw tightened. Yes. Before you marked her? The pause answered first. After the ceremony. Something inside Marin became very still. Only 3 nights earlier, Declan had brought coffee to her study because he knew she would work past midnight. He had kissed her forehead and joked that Ravencrest could survive until morning without its Luna. She had believed him. Even her wolf, usually restless whenever her mate stood this close, had gone silent. Chancellor Prescott Hale waited near the dais with the succession papers he had spent weeks placing before the king. Declan had been told Ravencrest needed the Avery bloodline to secure the Eastern Pacts. Marin knew nothing of the deception behind that claim. She only knew her mate had chosen to believe it. Ravencrest needs stability, Declan said. Sloane's bloodline gives us that. Marin tightened her fingers around the charm. And what was I supposed to be while you decided that? Declan stepped closer. His wolf stirred at the change in her scent. You are my Luna. His eyes flicked toward Sloane. She will secure my legacy. His legacy? Marin almost laughed. Instead, she looked at the man she had loved through 6 winters, border disputes, and sleepless council nights. You already had one, she whispered. Declan frowned. He did not understand. Marin left the charm hidden. This was not how their child would be introduced to its father. Sloane stepped forward. Marin, this does not have to become humiliating. Then you should have considered that before agreeing to make it public. Sloane stopped. Marin removed the silver Luna seal from her shoulder and placed it on the ceremonial table. A murmur passed through the oldest pack leaders. Returning the seal could not dissolve a mate bond, but its meaning was unmistakable. Declan's expression changed. What are you doing? Giving you the evening you chose. Marin walked away before he could answer. No tears came until the moon hall doors closed behind her. Even then, she wiped them away and kept moving. Laurel found her less than an hour later beside an open traveling case. You cannot travel tonight. Not in your condition. Marin folded a plain dress into the case. I am not traveling tonight. Laurel exhaled. Marin looked through the window toward the dark forest beyond Ravencrest's pack territory. Then she removed the silver wolf charm from her pocket and placed it inside her bag. We leave before dawn. You are really leaving him. Laurel's whisper barely disturbed Marin's private chamber. The moon hall had fallen silent hours ago, but the palace still seemed to hold the memory of what happened there. Marin closed her traveling case. He made his choice in front of the kingdom. And you are carrying his heir. Marin rested a hand over her stomach. Which is why I cannot stay and teach this child that love means accepting humiliation. She packed only what had belonged to her before becoming Luna. 3 dresses, winter boots, personal savings, medical supplies, and documents for property inherited from her mother. The royal jewels remained untouched. So did every gift purchased from Ravencrest's treasury. Her crown rested on the dressing table. The silver wolf charm stayed in her coat pocket. Where will we go? Laurel asked. South. We cross Ravencrest territory before sunrise. After that, somewhere the crown does not decide who I am. A knock sounded. Marin froze. Her wolf recognized him before he spoke, and the mate bond tightened beneath her ribs. Marin. Declan. Laurel glanced toward the door. Marin did not open it. I need to speak with you, he said. Not tonight. Prescott believes the Avery Alliance may prevent 3 Eastern Pacts from withdrawing their support. What happened in that hall was political. Marin closed her eyes. He still believed explaining the reason could change the wound. You marked another woman in front of me. The mark does not erase what you are. That is exactly what you do not understand. Silence followed. The bond between them remained painfully alive. It could recognize. It could pull. But pack law could not turn a mate bond into obedience. We will talk in the morning, Declan finally said. Merrin waited until his footsteps faded. Yes, she whispered. You will. Laurel prepared a small dose of moonroot tincture. Its bitter scent filled the room. This will soften your scent for several hours. It cannot break the bond. I do not want to break it. I only need enough time to cross the boundary. Once you leave Ravencrest territory, distance will weaken what his wolf can sense. He may know you are alive, but he will not have a trail. Shortly before 4, a hired carriage waited beyond the western service gate. The guard stared at Merrin's traveling case and bare shoulder where her Luna seal had rested for 6 years. Does the king know? He knows enough. Pack custom allowed a Luna to leave freely unless she was under lawful detention or a Moon Council order. Merrin was neither. The guard stepped aside. Safe journey, my lady. The gates opened. Merrin climbed into the carriage beside Laurel. Snow-covered pines swallowed Ravencrest behind them. She did not look back. At dawn, Declan entered her chamber expecting an argument. He found an untouched bed, a half-empty wardrobe, and her crown on the dressing table. Beside it lay a folded letter. You chose the future you wanted. I am choosing mine. Declan read it. Twice. His wolf surged forward, searching through the mate bond. There was something there, but barely. Merrin was alive. Nothing gave him a direction. Moonroot had blurred her scent, and distance had done the rest. Where is she? Prescott appeared at the doorway. Your Majesty? Find my Luna. Prescott hesitated. Perhaps it is better to give her time. Declan looked again at the abandoned crown. A colder truth finally reached him. Merrin had not left to frighten him. She had left because she intended to build a life that no longer included him. She will come back. Declan said it on the first morning as if certainty could make it true. By the 7th, Merrin's chair remained empty, her rooms untouched, and the mate bond gave him only the faint assurance that she was alive. His wolf searched whenever he crossed the western grounds, testing every familiar scent carried through the pines, but Merrin had passed beyond Ravencrest territory. Distance had reduced the bond to something he could feel but never follow. Declan ordered no forced search. No checkpoint could detain her, and no neighboring alpha was asked to violate pack territory on his behalf. Still, every report from the southern roads ended the same way. No confirmed sighting. Ravencrest continued without its Luna, but not smoothly. Winter medicine reached the western villages 3 days late. 2 orphan houses reported missing food allocations. Then a servant arrived with a stack of unsigned requests. Why are these on my desk? Declan asked. The Luna usually approved them, Your Majesty. Another ledger followed. Heating assistance, school funds, widow stipends, emergency grain reserves. Declan stared at pages covered in Merrin's handwriting. He had known she worked. He had never understood how much of Ravencrest quietly passed through her hands. Sloane entered that afternoon wearing Avery silver. The scent of Declan's second mark still clung faintly to her, but his wolf showed no acceptance. The council is asking when you intend to announce my position. Your position is unchanged. You marked me before the kingdom. Merrin is still my lawful Luna. Sloane's expression tightened. She abandoned. The palace. Declan raised his eyes. She left me. Those are not the same thing. Prescott arrived carrying another folder of succession papers. Your Majesty, delaying the transition creates uncertainty. You seem remarkably prepared for my wife's absence. I prepare for every possibility. That evening, Declan entered Merrin's old study. He remembered bringing her coffee 3 nights before the ceremony and joking that Ravencrest could survive until morning without its Luna. Now the kingdom was proving how wrong he had been. A royal courier arrived after sunset with a sealed document bearing the silver crescent of the Healer Registry. Under pack law, a confirmed child of the reigning alpha had to be registered for protection even if the parents lived in separate territories. Declan broke the seal. Patient, Merrin Caldwell Whitmore. Royal pregnancy confirmed. He read the date. 3 days before the moon ascension ceremony. For one heartbeat, his wolf went still. Then recognition struck through the mate bond. Merrin was carrying his child. His heir. The family he had been trying to secure had already existed when he marked another woman. The silver wolf charm flashed through his memory. He remembered Marin touching her pocket beneath the moonstone. Then her words returned. You already had one. Declan gripped the desk. His legacy had been standing 10 feet away while he publicly chose another bloodline to protect it. The door opened. Prescott entered with Sloane behind him. Your Majesty, the council is waiting. Declan folded the document. His wolf suddenly caught a change in Sloane's scent. Fear. Did either of you know Marin was pregnant? Sloane went pale. Prescott answered too quickly. Of course not. Scent was not evidence under pack law. Declan knew that. But fear had entered the room the moment they saw the document. He looked from Sloane to Prescott. Then why? He asked quietly. Do you both smell afraid that I know? Because you were never supposed to read that record. Sloane's answer came before Prescott could stop her. The room fell silent. Declan's wolf sharpened at the fear in her scent, but instinct was not proof. Under pack law, not even in Alpha King's senses could replace evidence. Explain, Declan said. Prescott recovered first. Lady Sloane is upset. She misspoke. I did not ask you. Declan kept his attention on Sloane. I knew there were concerns about Marin's ability to secure the succession. That is all. Declan placed the pregnancy record on his desk. My wife is carrying the firstborn royal heir. What concern remained? The assessment was completed before her pregnancy became known, Prescott said. Then we will examine the assessment. By noon, Ravencrest senior legal archivist and 2 independent pack council members had arrived. Under Moon Council safeguards, a disputed succession claim could not be reviewed solely by the Alpha, whose bloodline it affected. The original statutes were brought from the royal vault under separate seals. Declan read them himself. A recognized Luna retained her title and protection unless the mate bond was lawfully dissolved. A second mark could not remove those rights or transfer succession authority. More importantly, no Avery alliance had ever been required to secure Ravencrest's throne. Declan placed the original law beside Prescott's assessment. Who prepared this? The Chancellor's office submitted it, the archivist said. Prescott remained composed. Based on political recommendations. Declan lifted the altered summary. You presented it as pack law. I presented what Ravencrest needed. Those are not the same thing. Sloane stepped forward. The Eastern Pacts still respect Avery blood. The alliance matters. Political value does not make a false law true. Declan faced her. Did you know this assessment contradicted the succession code? She hesitated. Fear sharpened in her scent. I knew there were different interpretations. The archivist shook her head. There are none. The law has been affirmed by 3 moon councils. Declan turned to Prescott. Seal the Chancellor's records. Prescott stiffened. You cannot seriously suspect me because your wife left. My wife left because I betrayed her. Do not confuse my responsibility with yours. Saying it stripped away the excuse Declan had been hiding behind. Prescott might have lied, but no. False document had placed Declan's hand on Sloane. He had known Marin would be hurt, and convinced himself duty made that acceptable. Until this review is complete, you are suspended from council authority. Prescott surrendered his chancellor's insignia before 2 council guards escorted him away. Sloane remained. What happens to me? Nothing until the evidence establishes what you knew. Her expression hardened. You marked me. I did. That mistake belongs to me. Any deception surrounding it belongs to whoever committed it. By evening, investigators uncovered payments from an Avery-controlled account to 2 clerks in Prescott's office. Another record carried Sloane's signature beneath a succession memorandum she had claimed never to have seen. Declan held the page beneath the lamp. Someone had carefully built the lie that made his betrayal easier to justify. His wolf reached through the mate bond. Marin was alive, but too far away to follow. Declan could have ordered neighboring alphas to search their territories. He did not. Pack law still called Marin his Luna. The bond still recognized her. Neither gave him ownership of her choices. He had chosen fear and called it duty. Marin had paid the price. Somewhere beyond his territory, so had their unborn child. I came for my family. Declan stood outside the small clinic at Silver Pines with no guards, royal carriage, or crown. For months had passed since Marin left Ravencrest. The investigation had uncovered altered records and payments linking Prescott's office to the Avery family, but none of it had revealed where Marin was. The answer came through a protected succession notice in the Southern Pack Registry. Under Interpack law, A royal heir living outside Crown territory could receive medical protection without revealing the mother's address. The notice confirmed only that Ravencrest's firstborn heir was protected by Silver Pines. Declan traveled south alone. Silver Pines was neutral pact territory. Not even an Alpha King could enter its protected settlements to seize a mate or claim an heir without consent or a Moon Council order. At the border, Declan asked that a message be delivered. Merrin, alone, decided whether he would see her. Now she stood in the clinic doorway, one hand resting against the curve of her stomach. Declan forgot every sentence he had prepared. His wolf recognized her scent instantly beneath pine and snowmelt. The bond pulled hard, urging him to close the distance. Declan stayed where he was. "You had a family," Merrin said. "I know." The silver wolf charm she had once hidden in her pocket now hung near her heart. Declan recognized it immediately. "Was that for me?" "For our child. I was going to give it to you after the ceremony." He lowered his eyes. "May I come inside?" Merrin considered him, then stepped aside. The permission mattered. Declan remained near the door. Prescott falsified the succession assessment. The Avery alliance was never required. Investigators found payments to his clerks. Sloane signed a memorandum she claimed she had never seen. "So you were deceived?" "Yes." "Does that make what you did less real?" "No." The answer came immediately. Prescott lied, but he did not make me mark Sloane. "I chose fear and called it duty." Merrin studied him. "Fear of what?" "Becoming my father." He nearly lost Ravencrest because he hesitated whenever duty demanded something painful. "I spent my life believing choosing with my heart made a king weak." Declan swallowed. "So when Prescott told me your bloodline could not secure the future, I believed him and decided I could survive the cost." "Yes." His gaze drifted toward her stomach. His wolf responded to the life connected to them. Merrin noticed. "Do not look at our child and turn regret into love, Declan. I loved you before I knew. Then you should understand why that hurts more." He did. "Come back to Ravencrest." "No. I can protect you both. Silver Pines already does." The old alpha instinct urged him to argue. He resisted it. Merrin watched him carefully. "If you want to be part of this child's life, you may receive medical updates. You may ask to visit. You will not use the crown, the mate bond, pack law, or succession rights to control where we live." Declan nodded. "You have my word. Then keep this one." He left before sunset. At the territory boundary, the bond stretched, and his wolf resisted every mile north. Declan kept moving. For once, loving Merrin meant respecting an answer he did not want. Merrin watched him disappear beyond the pines. For the first time since leaving Ravencrest, she wondered whether the man she had loved was finally learning that love without choice was only another kind of cage. "You came back alone." Prescott Hale's voice carried across the council chamber when Declan returned to Ravencrest 3 days after leaving Silver Pines. The former chancellor sat under guard while investigators sorted sealed records across the table. Declan removed his coat. "That was her choice." Prescott gave a thin smile. "And you accepted it?" "Yes." Months earlier, Declan might have sent riders or invoked the crown. Merrin had asked for something harder, the right to decide. He intended to keep his word. Medical updates arrived from Silver Pines only with Merrin's permission. Declan read what she chose to share and requested nothing more. Even his wolf, restless whenever the mate bond pulled south, had to accept that instinct was not permission. 5 days later, investigators found the proof they needed. A sealed memorandum from Prescott's restricted archive had been written 12 days before the moon ascension ceremony. It confirmed that Merrin remained Ravencrest's lawful Luna, that a second mark could not transfer her title, and that no Avery bloodline was required to secure the throne. Sloane Avery's signature appeared beneath it. She knew, Declan said. Under Moon Council procedure, Scent and Alpha authority could not establish guilt. A signed record could. Sloane was summoned that afternoon. Declan placed the memorandum before her. "You told me there were different interpretations." Sloane stared at her signature. "There were political concerns." "Did you know Merrin would remain my lawful Luna after I marked you?" Silence. "Yes." "And that the Avery alliance was not legally required." Sloane glanced toward Prescott. "Yes." "Why?" Her composure cracked. "Because you would never have chosen me otherwise." Declan absorbed the answer. "No, I would not have." Sloane's eyes hardened. "You still made the choice." "I did, and I will answer for mine. You will answer for yours." The final evidence against Prescott arrived the next morning. Investigators recovered correspondence ordering officials to suppress any protected medical notice that might weaken the argument for an Avery alliance. He had not merely manipulated advice. He had tried to control what information reached the crown. Under Ravencrest pact law, falsifying succession records or suppressing information concerning a lawful royal heir could constitute succession treason. Is it enough for a tribunal? Declan asked. For Prescott, yes, the investigator said. For Sloane, the evidence supports conspiracy, concealment, and knowing participation in succession fraud. Declan nodded. Charge only what the evidence proves. No family exemptions. No collective punishment. He looked toward the sealed records. Once, he would have believed justice meant deciding quickly because he was king. Now he understood why power needed boundaries. Convene the royal tribunal under Moon Council law. Let the evidence speak before the crown does. Before the summonses were issued, Declan wrote to Merrin himself. The investigation is ready for trial. The evidence shows deliberate suppression of protected succession information and proves Sloane knew the second mark could not lawfully replace you. Moon Council tradition gives you the right to testify because the fraud concerned your bond and heir. But you owe Ravencrest nothing. If you return, it must be your choice. He signed only his name. 2 days later, a reply arrived from Silver Pines. 6 words. I will come for the truth. Declan's wolf surged at the thought of her returning to Ravencrest territory. He let the instinct pass. Merrin was coming back to the kingdom. She was not coming back to him. This time, he understood the difference. I did not return for my marriage. Merrin's words settled over the royal tribunal before anyone could mistake her presence for reconciliation. She stood beneath Ravencrest's silver crest with Laurel beside her, one hand resting over her stomach. Declan waited near the council table. He did not approach. His wolf had recognized Merrin the moment she crossed into Ravencrest territory, and the mate bond had strengthened with every mile. Still, he had sent no escort and made no attempt to follow its pull. You returned for the truth, he said. Yes. Across the chamber, Prescott Hale and Sloane Avery sat separately under guard. Above the magistrates hung the silver crescent of the Moon Council. Under tribunal tradition, cases involving a royal mate bond or disputed succession were judged by evidence alone. Even the Alpha King's crown could not determine the verdict. The chief magistrate touched the crescent carved into the table. Before Moon Council law, no bloodline stands above evidence. The royal archivist presented the original succession statute beside Prescott's altered assessment. No Avery alliance was legally required. Merrin remained Ravencrest's lawful Luna, and a second mark could not remove her rights. Payment records followed. 2 clerks admitted accepting money to alter legal summaries. Then came the memorandum bearing Sloane's signature. Did you read this before the ceremony? The magistrate asked. Yes. Yet you allowed the king to believe your mark was necessary. Sloane lowered her eyes. Yes. Prescott rose when permitted to speak. I acted to protect the crown. The magistrate lifted one of his letters. By falsifying its laws. Prescott turned toward Merrin. She was never suited to secure Ravencrest's future. Merrin's wolf stirred, but her voice remained calm. My bloodline is not on trial. Your deception is. Prescott looked toward Declan. Do not pretend this was my decision alone. Without me, you never would have marked Sloane. The chamber became still. Merrin watched Declan. He could blame Prescott now. The evidence gave him every opportunity to make himself another victim. He did not. You lied to your king, Declan said. You bribed officials, corrupted pack records, and suppressed information about the lawful heir. The tribunal will judge those crimes. Prescott smiled faintly. And the mark? Declan looked at Merrin. The betrayal was mine. A murmur moved through the chamber. No forged document placed my hand on Sloane. No chancellor forced me to humiliate my wife and mate. Before her kingdom, I believed your lies because they gave me permission to choose fear over the woman I loved. Merrin's breath caught. Declan continued. I can punish treason. I cannot rewrite what I did. The magistrate called Merrin forward. She described the ceremony, the false succession claims, and why she left Ravencrest. She asked for no revenge. What judgment do you seek? The magistrate asked. Merrin looked from Prescott to Sloane, then finally at Declan. The lawful one. Nothing less because they were powerful. Nothing more because I was hurt. The tribunal withdrew to consider each charge separately. As Meryn turned toward the doors, Declan spoke. Meryn. She stopped. You once told me a king who chose with his heart made his people pay for it, she said. Declan nodded. I was wrong. Her wolf recognized its mate. The bond recognized him too. Neither erased what he had done. Meryn met his eyes. Then prove it when the judgment comes. She walked away, leaving Declan beneath the crown he could no longer use as an excuse. The law will not bend because the guilty once stood beside a king. The chief magistrate's voice carried through the royal tribunal the following morning. Meryn sat beside Laurel while Declan remained at the royal table, his crown untouched before him. Prescott Hale and Sloane Avery stood separately beneath the silver crescent of the Moon Council. The Avery conspirators were sentenced first. Those proven to have financed falsified records or bribed royal clerks lost their titles, surrendered unlawful gains, and received penalties for their individual crimes. No innocent relative was punished for another's actions. Then the magistrate faced Sloane. You knew Meryn remained Ravencrest's lawful Luna. You concealed that knowledge, supported a false succession claim, and accepted a second royal mark while participating in a scheme to alter the succession. Sloane went pale. I did not create Prescott's plan. You are not being sentenced for his crimes. The magistrate opened the tribunal record. Knowing participation in the fraudulent displacement of a Luna or manipulation of a royal heir through falsified records constitutes conspiracy to commit succession treason. Sloane looked at Declan. You marked me. I did. Then you cannot let them condemn me for accepting what you offered. Declan held her gaze. You are not being judged for accepting my mark. You are being judged for what you knowingly concealed, so I would place it. Sloane was found guilty of conspiracy to commit succession treason, concealment, and obstruction. Her illegitimate royal privileges were revoked, assets gained through the conspiracy seized, and she received life imprisonment without eligibility for royal pardon. Prescott was last. The tribunal found that he had designed the scheme, bribed officials, falsified records, suppressed information concerning the lawful heir, and manipulated the crown for political control. I protected Ravencrest from weakness, Prescott said. Meryn regarded him calmly. You protected your power. Prescott was convicted of high succession treason, bribery, fraud, and abuse of royal office. His titles were revoked and criminal assets seized. For directing the attempt to corrupt the royal succession and suppress the lawful heir, he received the highest sentence permitted under Ravencrest Pact law, death. No one applauded. Justice did not need celebration to be complete. Declan rose only after the tribunal finished. There is one judgment this court cannot make for me. He faced the chamber. Prescott betrayed the crown. Sloane participated in that deception. But neither made me betray my Luna. His eyes found Meryn. No forged assessment forced my choice. Meryn did not fail this crown. Her king failed her. The bond stirred between them. Meryn felt it, but no longer mistook its pull for an answer. Declan turned toward the magistrates. Ravencrest will change. No lawful Luna may lose her title, property, protection, or freedom because an alpha places a second mark. Succession assessments will require independent pack review. No alpha, including the king, may use a mate bond to confine an innocent mate. Then he added, begin the lawful dissolution of my second mark. The magistrate nodded. Its legal recognition ends today. The physical mark will be dissolved beneath the next waning moon. When the chamber emptied, Meryn approached the untouched crown. You proved it, she said. Declan understood. It does not undo what I did. No. Meryn touched the silver wolf charm at her neck. Accountability was never supposed to erase the past. She turned toward the doors. It was supposed to change what happens next. Her wolf sensed its mate behind her, but Meryn kept walking. A bond could recognize love. It could not choose her future. May I walk with you? Declan asked months later beneath the tall pines outside Silver Pines. Meryn almost smiled at how different the question sounded from the commands he once believed were protection. Spring had softened the last snow along the road. Inside the small house behind her, Laurel was settling Meryn's newborn son into his cradle. Declan had arrived alone, as he always did now. No guards. No royal banners. No expectation that the door would open because he was king. He had been present after the birth only because Meryn invited him. When Laurel placed the baby in his arms, Declan's wolf recognized the child before the king found his voice. He closed his eyes, then whispered, "Hello, Everett." Meryn had chosen the name. Declan had asked whether he could someday give their son the silver wolf charm she had carried from Ravencrest. She had said yes. That was how their life worked now. He asked. She chose. Ravencrest had changed too. The reforms had passed Independent Pack Council and Moon Council review. A lawful Luna could no longer be displaced by a unilateral second mark. Royal mates retained their property and freedom, and a mate bond could never be used as authority to confine an innocent mate. Declan sent Meryn copies of the new laws without asking for praise. His second mark had been dissolved beneath the waning moon before neutral pack witnesses. He never presented it as proof that she owed him another chance. "You changed Ravencrest," Meryn said as they walked. "I changed laws that should never have allowed so much power to depend on one person's judgment. Including yours? Especially mine." Meryn could still feel the familiar connection between them, warm after months of distance. Once she might have believed that pull meant they belonged together. Now she understood what old pack stories rarely admitted. A mate bond could recognize love and survive betrayal. It could not restore trust before trust was earned. Declan stopped near a wooden bridge crossing a narrow creek. "I do not expect you to return." "Good. And I do not expect forgiveness because I became better after hurting you." Meryn waited. "But I will keep becoming better even if you never choose me again." She looked toward the water. She still loved parts of him, but love was not a command, a crown, or permission to take away her choice. She remembered crossing Ravencrest's boundary with Moonroot hiding her scent, believing distance was the only freedom left to her. She was not that woman anymore. "There may be something left for us," she said. Declan remained still. "There may be. Do not make me repeat myself." A faint smile touched his face. "What would that mean?" Meryn turned toward him. "It means we begin again. You do not get the woman you betrayed back. You meet the woman she became. And if she decides she does not want me, then you respect her answer." "I will." Meryn believed him, not because he was Alpha King or because their bond still connected them, but because for months he had kept promises she gave him no reward for keeping. From the house came Everett's faint cry. Declan glanced back, then waited. "May I?" Meryn understood. "You may." They returned together, neither walking ahead of the other. Once, Meryn had waited for Declan to choose her before an entire kingdom. Now the choice belonged to her. Whatever she chose next would not be escape, instinct, duty, or a crown. It would simply be her life. Thanks for watching. Share your thoughts, like, share, subscribe, enable notifications, and join us for more unforgettable alpha romance stories ahead.